Now we're recording. Hello and welcome to Chainsaws and Machetes. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Chadwick. Today I want to show you these awesome frames that I found over at Michael's. They're going to help you display your comic books, put them up on the wall, and make them look great for under $10. There are three things I really like about these frames. Number one, they'll fit almost any comic book. If you're a collector of classic comics, you know that over the years they change sizes. This thing is wide enough and tall enough that it will accommodate almost any era of comic book. You can also remove the spacer inside the frame, and then it will hold thicker comic books like this 100-page bonus issue. Now I've used these frames in the past, and they're fine. They look pretty good, but they're size specific, so you have to buy the right era frame for the right era comic book, and the recess inside the frame isn't very deep. So if you have a bonus issue, it's not going to fit in this frame. Number two, these things are inexpensive. I picked them up over at Michael's for $6.50 each. These ones, got them on Amazon, $15 each. It's a lot of money if you have a lot of comic books. Number three, these things look great. Now compared to the more expensive frame that I got over at Amazon, I'd go with this one any day. This is a pretty simple process, so let's get started. You're going to need a few simple supplies for this project: black poster board, craft knife, a pencil, straight edge ruler, some clear tape, and most importantly, this awesome frame. And next I want to focus on the comic book itself. For anything like me, you take really good care of your comic books. I keep everything bagged and boarded with all the acid-free bags and boards and make sure that this thing is protected for a good long time. I want to make sure it looks good. And I don't want to put it in the frame without that protection. I want to make sure that it's not going to get any air to it and it's not going to dry out, it's not going to fade. The first thing I want to do is, you see along the edge, you can see that board poking out from behind the comic book. I don't want to see that when it's in the frame. I want the black mat behind the cover, and that's it. I'm going to open up the bag. I'm going to pull the board and the book out and set the bag aside for now. I'm going to carefully set these down on the table. Now what I want to do is I want to measure the dimensions of the book. I'm going to cut the board down to match that. Okay, now carefully with my ruler, I'm going to measure the width of the comic book. Right now I got about 6 6/8. And from top to bottom, I got about 10 1/8. So I'm going to write that down real quick, just so I don't forget and have to keep messing with the book. 6 6/8 and 10 1/8. Okay, now I'm going to carefully set this comic book aside so I don't keep messing with it. Now that I have my proper dimensions, I'm going to start marking them out on the board itself. So I got 6 6/8. I like to mark twice up the edge, 6 6/8. And then we go 2 marks going this direction at 10 1/8. 10 1/8. Now if I lay my ruler across those 2 marks, I'm going to have a straight line, if I measured correctly, which I'm pretty positive I did. Now that the board is marked out, you can see the excess, and that's what I'm taking off the board. So again, I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to make sure I have my marks straight. And I always cut to the outside of the piece that I'm keeping. But what I mean by that is I cut on the waist side. That way if I wander off my straight edge at all, I'm not going to mess up the good piece. So I'm going to carefully lay the comic book back down over the board, and there you have it. You can't see the board peeking out from around the edges. Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Well, let's move on to the frame. I'm going to take this thing apart, undo all the tabs around the edges. I'm going to pull out that plastic spacer. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to pull out the back pane of glass. I'm going to leave the front pane in the frame just because there's no real reason to move it around. While I have it opened up like this, I'm going to give it a quick spray of glass cleaner, and I'm going to carefully wipe any fingerprints or any smudges that might be on the inside out. I'm going to set this aside to dry so we don't have any wetness in between the glass, any streaks or anything like that. Now with my poster board here and the other piece of glass, I'm going to line up the edges as close and as carefully as I can. I'm going to mark these lines out. Now let's cut that. Next step I want to do here is I want to make sure that I'm going to center the comic book in the mat. So the best way to find the exact center of this mat is to go from corner to corner, make a small mark, and go from corner to corner this direction, and make another mark. Now where those two marks intersect, I don't know if you can see that on there, but where those two marks intersect, that's the direct center of this mat. So from that center, I'm going to take my dimensions of the comic book itself, and I'm going to mark out the edges of where that comic book is going to lay. Easiest way to do that is to divide these measurements in half. So 6 6/8 would be 3 3/8, and 10 1/8 would be 5 1/16. So on my ruler, I will find 3 3/8. I'm going to set that right on that X, and then I'm going to go to 6 6/8, and I'm going to mark that as the edge. Now next, I'm going to measure from the edge to that mark. Got 2 1/4 inches. So I'm going to make one more mark at 2 1/4 inches from the edge, and this is where the edge of my comic book is going to lie. I'm going to do the same thing going top to bottom. So 5 1/16 right there on the X. I'm going to mark the top. I'm going to measure that distance, which is 1 3/8. I'm going to move over a little bit, and I'm going to hit 1 3/8 again. All right, I'm going to take a couple pieces of tape. I'm going to make my little loops, sticky side out, and I'm going to lay those right down the center here. Now I got my 2 tabs of tape down the center of the space my comic book is going to reside in. I want to get to a point where I can see my marks really well and try to line up the book with it going just over those marks, so we don't see the marks in the final product. Got it on there. Really press the air out. I want to make it sure it's flat as possible. There's always a little bit of air in those bags. It always bothers me, but not really much you can do about it. Alright, so here we go. We got that all set. So let's bring the frame back in. Now with the hanger at the top of the frame, the book and the mat, we're going to drop that right inside. I'm going to grab that backing glass. I'm going to carefully drop that in. And then that plastic spacer. That's going to hold everything nice and tight in there. There we go. I think that looks great. It's an amazing frame. I'm going to give it a little wipe down, make sure I get rid of my fingerprints on there. This baby is ready to display and look great on your wall. Now even though I have it in the bag and have the board on there and it's all acid free and it should protect my ink and protect my pages, I still wouldn't hang this anywhere where it's going to get direct sunlight, because I'm afraid that's going to fade, and I don't want that to happen. But let's go get these things hung up. There you have it. I'm really happy with the way these things turned out. I think they look great. If you like the video, please press that like button and subscribe. There should be more videos coming pretty soon. Thanks a lot.